Most of the time when I go back and experience something from my childhood, something in my cynical adult brain keeps the magic from coming back. But today we're looking at something that actually holds up really well. Wonderland, a simple 3D puzzle game by Canadian developer Midnight Synergy. You might not have heard of Midnight Synergy, but they've actually been around for more than 20 years and, to my initial shock, are still active. Patrick Mydorn, or Mydorn, founded Midnight Synergy in 1995 in Saskatchewan, though some of his earlier work dates as far back as the 1980s. The official website includes a page called ancient.htm with screenshots of these early projects and a limited number of download links. And by limited, I mean one, and the website even warns that it may not run on Windows 95. I highly recommend taking some time to browse their official website if you're a terrible person like me and you find broken English hilarious. And that's to say nothing of the wiki pages that really couldn't have been written by anyone but the developers themselves. Seriously, take a look at some of these gems.
Guide our heroes through 85, open parenthesis, exclamation mark, close parenthesis, diverse levels.
As you do, you can buy Wonderland and Midnight Synergy's Games Collection CD along with other games. For more information, go to Midnight Synergy's website for more info.
The trial version is limited to 10 levels. Also, when you can finish more 2 levels, you can request the 2 free bonus levels in the demo via email at bonus@midnightsynergy.com. An automatic reply will receive the code if you want to play extra 2 levels. These 2 intermediate levels will give you a glimpse at what awaits in the full version.
Let me guess, Waluigi hat. Because video games? I'll have you know I spent good money on this hat. Well, it makes you look like a Nazi. It does not. It does, and I think you did that on purpose. The first one came out in 2002, with its sequel Return to Wonderland releasing the following year, and Wonderland Secret Worlds just a couple years after that. The developers would go on to make a spin-off series called Wonderland Adventures, but this original trilogy is the core Wonderland experience. There were a number of websites in the mid-aughts that would let you download these 60-minute trial versions of full games, and that's how I found Wonderland. Strangely, I don't really have memories of using this technique for other games, but I do remember when we'd upgrade the family computer, I'd be pumped to get those free trials again and be able to play, since a hardware scan was their way of doing DRM. In fact, I think of the 3 websites that had trials for Wonderland, 2 of them operated off of the same save data, so when one trial ran out, I could actually boot up the other one and pick up right where I left off. I was a sneaky kid. Regardless, my parents never bought the full games, presumably since I was the only one in the house who enjoyed them. But now that I'm an adult, with my own money, a show where I talk about media, and a hopeless void in my soul that can only be filled by fruitlessly grasping at nostalgic things in an attempt to recreate the joy of childhood for a brief moment, I can get Wonderland for myself!
Come on, let's go!
Is all of this necessary? It is. I need you to stay here while I film. Keeping me locked up again? As a matter of fact, yes. Now, I don't know much about the game's update history, but I was pleasantly surprised to see the game run pretty hassle-free on my Windows 10 system. It starts with a little pop-up that lets you set your display options, all of which are 4:3 aspect ratio, but the biggest one is technically a little better than 720p, which is what the Nintendo Switch displays in handheld mode. So you'd better not go begging to Midnight Synergy to put this game on the Switch. Nintendo obviously can't handle the raw power of a AAA title like Wonderland. Wonderland follows the, story of Stinky, who is a stinker. I imagine you might be having some trouble following along, so let's turn to the Midnight Synergy wiki to learn more.
Stinky is the main character in all of the Wonderland games so far. He has a high-pitched voice, like most of the stinkers. His best friend is Loof. He wears a blue hat.
A stinker's appearance is that of a spherical, yellow-shaped creature. They have large eyes, and they all wear hats. Each hat is usually a different design and color, and magicians wear wizard hats to differ themselves.
They have 4 fingers on their hands, just like the Simpsons, Phineas and Ferb, the Flintstones, Mario and Luigi, Mickey Mouse, the
Brian
Griffin
and
family,
Leela,
Family
Futurama,
Guy, the
Dexter,
Smith family,
Dexter,
American
Marshall,
Dad,
Burgers,
Ghostbusters, Ed,
the
Eddie,
Builder,
the Jetsons.
Being spherical? Fine. Being yellow-shaped? That's a normal thing to be. But 4 fingers? How do you expect me to suspend my disbelief? You'd better have a laundry list of examples to justify something as batshit crazy as 4 fingers. Stinky is a 4-fingered freak show who you play in Wonderland, a game whose story is non-existent. Like, there are some vague references to saving Wonderland in the supplemental text, but otherwise his goal is to navigate the most terrifying escape rooms ever conceived. And let's not forget Stinky's best friend Loof.
Loof is very small and he wears a rainbow hat, gloves, and purple shoes.
Some of the levels incorporate Loof into the mix. He functions the same way as Stinky, but instead, He's Loof. He's an objectively better stinker who's either very proud of who he is, or maybe just a big fan of exit fountains. Plus, his name doesn't allude to him not smelling very pleasant. I should be nicer to Stinky. I know not everyone gets to choose their name. Goodness knows I didn't. Having you around tarnishes my image. You mean this image? It's the name, isn't it? As the player, you'll guide Stinky and Loof to the weird rainbow fountain at the end of each level. You'd think the rainbow fountain would be a one-way ticket to Nirvana itself, but instead it just leads to practical problem solving. Most of the time, the fountain is locked behind some white exit gates, which will only drop if you collect all of the rainbow coins scattered throughout the level, so getting the coins is typically your main objective. But sometimes they make clever use of the gates and have them release enemies or just block off another chunk of the puzzle. The other coins you can grab up are these bonus coins that have the number 250 written on them, and you'll never guess how many points they give you. The bonus coins are, as the name implies, an added bonus for going above and beyond in a level. Sometimes they're just sitting around and you can grab them as long as you remember to, but most often they're left in hard-to-reach places, only accessible if you choose to take on the challenge of getting them. There have been no shortage of moments when solving the level normally is a tall order, and then factoring the bonus coins into the solution requires a reassessment of the whole thing. And that is good level design. By pressing a button, you can swap between Stinky and Loof, and they'll either start the level in the same area as each other, or in different areas where they'll have to work separately. This adds a fun element of depth to the puzzles, since you need both of them to reach the fountain to win, and they're both vulnerable, so you can't just leave one in a dangerous spot unattended. If either Stinky or Loof dies, you have to start over. And yes, our ever-influencing and unavoidable friend Death makes a cameo in this game as well, accompanied by the following sounds and animation. Like the United States, Wonderland doesn't have a reliable health system, so one hit from an enemy or stray box means death and instantly having to start the level over. Though, also like the United States, caring about lives isn't a thing you need to do at all, so you can keep trying as many times as it takes until you get it right. One area where this game really shines is how it eases you into each new concept. Typically, when an element gets introduced, there's a level to show it off in a safe, contained way, followed by steady increases in difficulty and twists. In no time at all, you'll be fully aware of how each piece works and gets incorporated into future puzzles. It borders on unskippable tutorial territory, but to its credit, all of the instructional messages appear on these floor tiles that you can easily just walk past and not read if you so choose. And while the introductory levels are easy, they're also engaging enough that replaying them a few times doesn't feel like a chore, and I should know from all those free trials I played as a kid. It's a good name with a clever pun. I came up with it myself. Shame it can't stay. This is exactly why you can't be in my videos anymore. All you're good for is antagonizing me. The Wonderland review was going just fine until you showed up. You know good and well that's not my choice. The tutorial will make you feel like a pro in no time, but I'm going to take things a step further. I'm going to give you a crash course in Wonderland that'll ensure you're playing like a pro before you even start the game.
I became a Wonderland master with this one weird trick. Speedrunners hate him. Enter your credit card number to learn more.
When you play Wonderland, you're going to spend a lot of time moving around wooden boxes.
Wooden boxes are the most basic objects in the classic trilogy in the Wonderland series. These have been around since the first Wonderland game got released.
You heard the wiki. Boxes are basic as fuck. These may seem like pointless obstructions, but boxes are a versatile and invaluable tool. For starters, you can make walkable terrain by pushing them into water. Boxes will block off enemies from hurting you and can alter their paths in some cases. The tip for boxes is to keep them accessible and avoid carelessly pushing them into walls. If you put a box in a corner, it becomes practically useless to you, so always make sure you keep them within reach. The designers usually put the exact number of boxes in play for a reason. Same goes for steel boxes.
Steel boxes were first introduced in Wonderland game. They are more durable than the wooden boxes. Withstands fireballs? Yes. Floats? No. Withstands water? Yes. Withstands lava? Yes. Special properties? None.
It takes two of them to make a bridge in the water, so really think hard about whether they're right for the job if the level offers you some of both. And speaking of bridges, these are what the game developers actually call bridges.
In the classic trilogy of Wonderland, bridges are tiles that can only be stepped on a limited number of times. For this reason, they are also known as break tiles. Only stinkers can step on the bridges.
What I love about these bridges is that they're strong enough to hold a stinker for as long as they're willing to stand on it, but it's only when they step off that suddenly the physics don't allow for that. Like instead of a real bridge that says, "This task is too great for one such as me," these ones will do the job just fine, but eventually say, "Fuck, I am never doing that again." And let's not forget teleporters.
Teleporters are objects that allow stinkers and objects to instantly warp from one spot to another when two teleporters of the same color exist in a level.
Teleporters are an object unique to the Engineer and Symmetra, and they're just perfect for moving across the map and worshipping Satan. Something I've really been getting into lately. The important thing to remember is that these teleporters follow portal logic. You know, like the Portal games. If you go into a teleporter, you'll seamlessly come out the other side. So for instance, if you start to the right of a teleporter, you'll spawn to the left of the other. And a nice touch is if the proper direction is blocked off, you'll just emerge from the nearest open space, or not emerge at all if the destination teleporter is covered or blocked off in every direction. And this is always funny to me because Stinky and Loof will say, if that happens. Another cool tool at your... Wait, I like that. Cool tool. Gotta remember that one. Another cool tool at your disposal is the presence of these buttons.
Buttons are the triggers of certain kinds of events in Wonderland. They come in different colors, and the button that is the same color as a gate opens it.
Simple, right? Most buttons control laser gates.
In the classic Wonderland trilogy, laser gates are made up of 3 spinning lasers. The laser gates can only be opened by either square, round, or timer buttons. Square buttons permanently open the gate, unless a round or timer button is pressed afterwards, but round ones keep the gate open only if there's something standing on them, and when said object leaves said round button, the gate will close again. Timer buttons, once pressed, keep the gate open only for a few seconds.
Well, now I'm hopelessly confused. This is a concept that's super easy to pick up when you actually play the game. A rare case when something is much more easily demonstrated than explained. What would you rather have? Me, or a happy-go-lucky review of Wonderland, the perfect game with no problems? You know, the latter doesn't sound half bad. Yeah, but it's not real. You're one to talk. More than you think. Well, it looks like I thought of cool tool too late, because now it's time to talk about obstacles. Now, given that you're a person who has lived long enough to watch Look at This of your own volition and consent, which, if you're not, then maybe you've not lived long enough, in which case, hi, how are you? Look at you, you're adorable. Or maybe you're watching this not of your own consent, in which case, I am so sorry. I can't possibly fathom what you're going through right now, but please, stay strong. You'll make it through this. I know you will. No one should ever find themselves hostage by a monstrous captor, especially one with such poor taste. All that is to say, you probably don't need me to explain what water is, so I won't.
Water is a tile in the Wonderland games. It is the first and most common liquid introduced in every Wonderland game.
Water is pretty much just an obstruction that you can cover with boxes and can be a hazard for some enemies. Then there's lava.
Lava is a tile in Wonderland that is similar to water. But there are some changes.
You know, just a couple. For example, one such change you'll notice is that lava is opaque, so if you push a steel box into it, you won't see it beneath the surface. If you want to make a bridge in lava, you'll have to remember where you put the first steel box. Another change is that trying to push a wooden box into lava will destroy it instantly. And that's pretty much it. Other than the things it does to boxes, lava is basically water, just like it is in real life. Moving on, another obstacle you'll need to overcome are these electro tiles.
Electro tiles, also referred to as electrocentimes, on electric floors that will constantly alternate from electrocuting the top of the floor to electrocuting a stinker, object, or enemy needed when they are underneath the floor. They're harmless when they are electrocutting on the floor. They will destroy any boxes and kill any enemies or stinkers on it though.
Hey, Strat. Yeah, I think I'm gonna need that Spotify link. Let's take a second and explore some of the enemies you'll encounter in Wonderland. I'm not sure I made myself clear. You are a gimmick. You don't represent anything. You exist for off-screen banter and end-credit camera gags, and need I remind you, you let something slip during the credits for Ms. Koizumi? What's so funny? I thought I was a gimmick, but you're the one who said that I let something slip. You know, something about calling these creatures enemies just feels wrong. It's not like they're actively trying to stop you from doing anything. I mean, the cannons might have resting bitch face, but calling them enemies is needlessly stigmatizing. So I propose we call them something new. I'm thinking dangerous friends that will kill you if you're not careful. We'll workshop it. First on our list of corrupt comrades is Scourge the Cannon.
Scourges are cannons that automatically shoot fireballs in a certain directions. There are 4 different speeds for firing that's assigned to Scourges.
Like Effie and Levi the Poet, Scourges just want to be left to spit fire in peace. Their shots will destroy most of the other perilous pals, as well as wooden boxes and, of course, you. Which means you'll have to be careful how you navigate around them so you're not caught in a certain directions they automatically shoots. Steel boxes will safely block off their fire. You'll also want to pay attention to the different speeds for firing that's assigned to Scourges, because if you play a level where they're out of sync, it can be really tough to know when it's safe to move. Another fatal family member is Coily.
Coilies are a race of erratic living springs. Coilies have the body of a spring, their eyes placed on top of the end, and their bodies colored blue. When defeated, their bodies pop and disperse into the air. When they disperse, they make a deflating noise.
Coilies are the most unpredictable of the gang because their movement is entirely random. If there are multiple open spaces next to them, there's no way of knowing which one they'll go for. But if you do manage to box them into a single space, they'll stay put and stop bouncing, meaning they can activate buttons and such. One of the more notorious of the treacherous teammates is Kaboom.
Kabooms are an aggressive race of living bombs that make their home in the various places of Wonderland. Kabooms are known for their general appearance, shaped like dark blue bombs with a long rope of ignited firing at the ends. They have red feet and a small red eyes.
That's cool, but it's not enough to know what Kabooms are really like. I want to know who they are. What makes these bombs tick?
Kabooms suffer from extreme claustrophobia and will suicide when trapped in only one space.
Jesus, really? Now I have to update the content warning. Thanks a lot, Midnight Synergy Wiki. Go on, then.
In each game they appear in, they will explode if it hit or trapped, and radius this explosion to the 8 spaces around them. In every level with Kabooms in it, they seem like that they always walk next to obstacles. Boxes, water, walls, etc. It means that they're wall huggers.
So yeah, these wall huggers will explode if you stand too close to them or they're confined to one space on the board. And I guess since we already updated the content warning...
What are you doing? Killing myself?
Did you read the comments? People see right through you. You're not as subtle as you think. I'm good at being subtle. Please. If I'm the one who slipped, then you're the one who's just falling on your ugly face. The last hazardous homie is the Z-Bot, or Z-Bot, depending on where you're from.
Z-Bots are small and very fast enemies that will electrocute the player the two come into contact. Being electrifying, they will short circuit and then explode on a collision with either water or lava, which gives you 250 points. Z-Bots move in a straight line until hitting an wall. At that event, they will turn to a different direction if it's possessive possible.
The Z-Bots are introduced at a point in the game where you'd think you've met every chancy chum in the game, only to find there are even more new friends to make. Lovely. These things are so tricky to work with. They move stupid fast, and it's not always easy to tell where they'll go, since they shift direction when they run into pretty much anything. And they try to kill you on contact, so managing them can be a real pain at times. The only tip I have for Z-Bots is to not necessarily try to kill them all the time. There are levels where the Z-Bots are necessary, since they can move faster than you and access areas you can't always. I don't think you understand how comedy works. I stand in front of the camera and say silly things like, I wish I was an anime girl, and the audience laughs, and everyone goes about their business. And you know why it works that way? Because it's not real. You're right. I don't know comedy. But I know you, and I know that you're full of shit. So with that, now you know everything you need to start your journey into Wonderland. And what a fantastic journey it will be. I said it once and I'll say it again. This game has aged exceptionally well. I'm surprised more people don't talk about it. It's exactly how I remembered it as a kid and even more. It's fun, colorful, bright, fun, intuitive, creative, fun, great for the family, perfect for unwinding, fun, simple, inexpensive, fun, amazing, fun, awesome, fun, incredible, fun, 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 fun! You can put me in timeout and pretend I'm not real all you want, but I'm not going away. I know what goes on inside that head of yours, and if you don't let me out, I will destroy you from the inside. Go ahead! Destroy me then! It's not like it matters much anyway. I don't have deadlines or contracts to worry about. This is all leisure for me. Look at this, the YTPs, it's all fluff. And remember, if I go down, you go down with me. And Elliot. Wonderland is one of the most frustrating games I've ever played. I wasn't lying when I said the game does a good job of easing you into the concepts, but by the time you're on your own, it can be infuriating to get through some of these levels. The game lures you into thinking that everything is going to be straightforward and easy to decipher the whole way through, but it doesn't take long before you're trapped in these levels where everything has to be moved just perfectly with no missteps. Take for example this level, called Separation Anxiety. Yeah, anxiety is right. In this one, you're surrounded by boxes, and if you move just one box in the wrong spot, you risk having to start the entire level over again. It requires an insane amount of planning, and since pushing a box against a wall doesn't spell literal death, you might not even realize you need to start over until long after you've made the fatal move. That makes me feel like I've wasted time, which is not something a game should make me feel. And speaking of time, all of the levels have a timer in the corner. Yet another thing that can force a restart. Thankfully, this can be turned off, at the cost of forfeiting any time bonus you might have otherwise gotten. I've played a lot of difficult games, and the jury's still out on whether it feels worse to be killed by something and forced to restart, or being compelled to restart manually, but Wonderland makes both scenarios frustrating. I'm not going to nitpick the graphics, because I know it was an independent game from almost 2 decades ago. In fact, apart from the questionable choice of typeface and a few strange design choices, the graphics aren't bad. They're functional and smooth, so at the very least there's something satisfying to accompany the rage. Some of the tough levels are these long, drawn-out puzzle sequences where starting over can mean doing like 10 minutes of work just to catch up to the point where you messed up. Some of them are insanely precise action sequences like this one, where you have to escort a kaboom around this giant board, all the while not getting too close or stopping for too long. And figuring out that you have to do that in the first place isn't intuitive. That was one of the only levels I needed a walkthrough for. Which, as a side note, there are walkthroughs on the official site if you get stuck, but they don't always give you square-by-square directions. Sometimes they just tell you what you should generally be doing. For the first few recording sessions where I got all of this gameplay footage, I was really looking forward to playing. Like I said, the game has a really strong start. It's no wonder I loved playing the first hour over and over as a kid, because after you get into the second and third world, Wonderland becomes a real gauntlet that doesn't let up much. There's so many design gripes I have as well. Remember how I mentioned Z-bots being introduced at a bad time? Yeah, they don't show up until after the difficult part has already started. By that point, I was so done with new concepts being introduced that Z-bots straight up made me want to quit. And of course the steel boxes in lava problem, kabooms being nightmarish to manage, and Scouges in the worst possible spots. They even named one of the later levels That Darn Scouge because they knew players would get upset. And I know it's unreasonable to expect every level to be a design masterpiece. There are so many in Wonderland that of course a few are going to flop. But I can't even rely on the difficult levels to give me an aha moment or anything that makes me feel clever for figuring it out. The solution is often something I shouldn't be expected to even think of, or I figure it out early and spend an absurd amount of time just trying to execute it with the precision the game demands. I was convinced that this episode would cover all 3 of the original Wonderland games, but as time went on I could tell that that was an order much taller than I was ready for. Toward the end of it, I'd worked up the fortitude to finish the game, going into a recording session that I was confident would be the last. That happened 4 or 5 times. And the worst part? I haven't even beaten the game yet. I am on the literal last level and I cannot muster up the patience to finish it. Not by myself anyway, so at some point I'm going to stream it. Chalk it up to stubbornness, toxic masculinity, or what have you, but I will beat this game. And maybe someday I'll finish the sequels too. I did pay for them after all. Which brings me to my final comment about Wonderland. And it's a positive one. Wonderland reminds me of critically acclaimed games like the Dark Souls series and Cuphead. And no, I'm not just saying that because it's difficult. I'm saying that because it's tough but fair. It's an invitation. Wonderland is one of those games that, instead of flying its difficulty flag from the start, invites you to explore its world and keep persisting. It may lack the depth of Dark Souls or the spectacle of Cuphead, but it also lacks the gatekeeping. Even a child with minimal gaming experience can pick up Wonderland and understand what it's asking. The only reason I found the game frustrating is because, tough but fair, isn't really the kind of game I'm into. And it doesn't need to be. Everyone plays differently and seeks to get different things out of what they enjoy. But I also know that tough but fair is a pretty in-demand feature for games right now. So if that's your kind of thing, I wholeheartedly recommend Wonderland. Please, I would love for you to check it out, let me know what you think, and see if it gives you that enticing challenge you're looking for, or whether I'm right to be disappointed. And if you do want to try out the Wonderland games, you can always get yourself a free trial.
The prices to their games usually cost $19.99 and $34.95 for Return to Wonderland, but for a limited time the games cost $6.99 and $14.99 for Return to Wonderland. So, get your copies of any of their games for those prices while it lasts.
This episode of Look at This is supported by my dangerous friends that will kill you if you're not careful, Tinker and Schmergen, who just might actually be the nicest people on the planet. Also funded by corrupt comrade LGBTQIA and the rest of my precarious patrons on Patreon. Thank you.
If I stood on your shoulders, could I touch the sky?